So we can begin off with our standard prayer for student and teacher. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahi Tejasvinavaditam Astuma Viddhishavai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May that one protect us both. May that one nourish us both. May our study be full of strength and vigor, enthusiasm and enlightenment. May we not unnecessarily cavil with each other. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. So this is our usual Sunday morning question and answer sessions. If there are no questions, there are no answers. So I'll wait for some significant questions that would be useful to you and everybody else.
Swamiji, Namaste. Probably
Yes.
not a question as such, but the story that Swami Ramakrishna used to tell about people going into the mango grove and researching upon it. Probably if you could tell us more of the essence of the story.
Okay, so let me tell you what the story is, and I might embellish it somewhat. So there are some 4 people going to investigate. So bioscientists going to investigate, botanists going to investigate what is a mango tree. So there are maybe 1 or 2 people here who have come for private worship, and I can ask them, what is a mango tree? And how do we know it's a mango tree? Oh, the answer is I don't know, but you've seen a mango tree, yes? You've not seen them ever? I see, all right. Well, but you like eating mangoes, I think. That's the main thing. And it's the main thing because in investigating the mango tree, or any tree for that matter that represents life to us, we have basically 2 options. We can look at it from a materialist point of view, or we can look at it from an experiential point of view. So we can look at it from a theoretical point of view or a practical point of view. And same thing with spiritual life. So the story goes that 4 people went to investigate the mango tree. And in order to do this from a botanical point of view, you have to assess how old is the tree? How tall is the tree? When will it bear fruit? If it has borne fruit, what time and what season was it fruit bearing? And then how many leaves are there on the tree? If we study any tree, we'll see that the leaves are a duplication of the branch and the trunk. The pattern is going through the entire tree. And so it's worth a scholarly discussion how many leaves there are. And 3 of them found themselves in a deep discussion. And it took them some time to count all the leaves. Many hours, because if you count leaves, but they have to give a report to the head botanical office, how many leaves are there, and all the various details of this mango tree. And when they looked around, where's our 4th brother who is investigating this botanical thing? He was much wiser. He was up the tree eating the mangoes. And so the moral of the story is, it's better to eat mangoes than count the leaves. Now, if we look at our own life, we find that we are busy counting leaves and missing the enjoyment of the actual mango. Because we're either future orientated or we're past orientated. In the past, we look for regrets. In the future, we look for some kind of hopeful situation. And in that hopeful situation, being an uncertainty, it creates for us anxiety. And the secret, therefore, the art of living, if you want to put it like this, is to catch this present moment and taste it fully. particularly in this COVID-19 situation where people are having to stay at home. And there are many, many difficult psychological conditions we find ourselves in. In the last week, I found quite a number of people who are in a state of depression because they're normally active people, or they might be in a state of frustration. They might be angry. There was a big demonstration in Dublin last Saturday where people seem to be angry at the situation. And when we don't get what we want, we go into a condition of bereavement. Bereavement means there's a process, and the process being well studied. Bereavement means I want something, but I can't get it. I haven't got it. And so, first thing, I can't believe I haven't got it. Some of the greatest heart-rending difficulties in human experience will be relationships. So somebody says, oh, my relationship broke up. First thing is, I can't believe it. I can't believe it happened to me. The second thing is blaming. It's their fault, not mine. Next thing is anger. The whole world's a mess and I'm angry with it. Why did a wise God put me in this foolish condition? So in this way, there's a whole process until we come to a position of acceptance, and some people don't even arrive at that. And when we look at the world, we try to analyze it. Now, there are several ways of analyzing, like these botanists analyzing the mango tree from a purely scientific point of view, in which case it's useful information, no doubt, but it doesn't really give us a practical relief from any difficult situation. They're purely emotion. In spiritual life, there is a gradation of spiritual practice, normally speaking. We start with ritualistic worship. We can have ritualistic worship, incorporating prayer. And then you can go a little deeper. You can have prayer, japa, meditation on the japa. That's a little bit more subtle and brings you a little closer to the truth. The next thing you can have is meditation. That's much subtler, in a way higher, deeper. And then once a realization dawns, your whole personality will change. It becomes a multi-purpose organism for us. So we tend to approach difficulties and we tend to approach life from an analytical point of view, means a material point of view, trying to find material answers and living in a world which is around our immediate concerns. Our immediate concerns is the physical body, health, and then we can go on from there to our emotional health, if you like, incorporating domestic situations, relationships, events, activities. All of this is around our so-called normal experience. But in this, if we do not taste what is available, then we have missed great opportunities. And don't forget, thought is swifter than light, is faster than light. A thought instantaneously reverberates in every single cell of the body, every thought, and if you are able to count up all the thoughts which are there, they amount to approximately a thought per second, roughly. Supposing we are to think that time is presented in units, and the unit we perceive as coming somehow from the future, that's the way we think of it, then it's unused, it's unexpected. We have no idea what's in it. Whatever is in it is whatever we put into it. And we come with a certain set of conditions also. So yesterday I was mentioning, on Saturday morning, we were talking about the Enneagram. I was talking about karma. And the karma means, is derived from kra, to act, to do. Some action is done. And every action has its repercussion in the normal world of causation that we live in. So we have to make sure that the action that we do is the very, very best quality if we are looking for a future effect that reflects this best quality. But how to catch the mind, since the mind thought comes in a flash and before you know it, some unfortunate thought has come out. So our whole life must be in reminding ourselves about this story that mangoes are available for the eating now, here and now. And what do the sweetness of these mangoes represent? It represents that enormous rapture, that internal rapture that's available to us, that we can call bliss, a blissful situation. And we get samples of it. So the story tells us about the pleasure of eating mangoes. You see, nobody can eat mangoes with more relish than a child. When I was very small, I was given mangoes, but I was put into a bath. So that it doesn't matter, all the juice can go everywhere. And I entirely relish it. And what's the point in eating mangoes if the juice doesn't run down your chin? And so it's a messy affair. It can be a messy affair with certain types of mangoes. But you see, look at the joy. Now we have lost this joy. These academics, 4 of them, going to investigate, and one wants to know what is a mango? What is this? We can use another example for it. Some people have heard of milk. Some people have seen milk, but others who know what milk is have tasted it. In this same way, if we want to taste the sweetness that is available to us in life, then we have to go through that process. We have to go through the process of hearing. We first hear there is such a thing as a mango tree and it gives us fruit. We can't leave it like that. See, I once knew a person, he was a resident in England, and he told me everything there was to know about New York. I said, that's amazing. He told us what the color of the taxi cabs were, which building is where, what the streets were. If you get lost, you need to go to this place, go to that place. He knew New York intimately. Then I asked him, have you ever been there? He said, never. I said, where'd you get all your information from? Now, in those days, he said, libraries and so on. Nowadays, we can say the Google, the internet. You just look at something up and you can see, you can go through on a virtual journey through New York, and it's as if you're there, but not really. Traffic noises. When you hear the local people speaking to you, when you get lost and want to know your directions, when you catch the pulse of the city, all of these things are necessary. The same thing with the COVID situation. There is one devotee that we can remain unnamed, came to the ashram not so long ago after a long period away and left. And the expression was, I felt that it was like a breath of oxygen going there. So there's no substitute for an encounter, direct encounter with reality. And then you know. So in the example of the mangoes, the one eating the mango knows mango. The others don't know. They know about it. That's the difference. Many people talk about God. Many people give huge lectures and write books on this subject. But how many of them have directly tasted this entity that they call God? How many have directly experienced this? How many people know this entity? And what is life's worth if we don't do it and if we don't know it? Not much. Just as what is the worth of counting all the leaves? Not much. Much greater worth in enjoying what is there. Now, there are philosophical schools that say this world must be abandoned. This world must be repressed. You do away with this world. But that means they haven't tasted the mangoes. They've come to a conclusion. What is the conclusion? Having counted all the leaves, there are no mangoes. That's an absurd conclusion. So Ramakrishna, for example, that 19th century mystic that we follow, was unique in the sense he made a corrective understanding. There is on the one side the nitya, that is the eternal, but on the other side is the lila, the play. You take this world like a play. And I mentioned maybe some time ago that a certain lady, Mrs. Bell, asked or made this comment at Thousand Island Park to Swami Vivekananda. She must have heard something from some preacher somewhere. He said, this world is like an examination. You know? It's like a learning. We're here to learn a lesson. And Swami Vivekananda, who is very swift to respond, said, I don't know where you get that understanding from, not exactly in those words, I'm paraphrasing. But to me, this world is like a circus, and we are clowns tumbling. See? So what is our job? Tumbling. Now the next philosophical question arises, why should we be tumbling? Why should we be clowns tumbling? And the answer comes swiftly, because we like tumbling. And as long as we like this tumbling, we'll be engaged in it. That's an example of diversion, but it's also a symptom. It's a symptom that this world is not as serious as we take it. And we are caught in this great, great concern. This whole atmosphere of negativity, if we come into some difficulty. But we are not built to succumb to difficulty. We are built to resist it. We're not built to be uncomfortable with it. We are not built to be puppets in the hands of a cruel deity. We are here to understand that this world will begin and end in the same condition. We are born alone and we die alone. No matter how many families we have, or meant to discourage you, it's meant to be a realistic statement that infers something more is there, something more sublime is there, something more joyful is there. So what are we missing by diverting the mind so much and allowing the mind to be diverted? So I gave a thought out this morning because it is easy for us to go into a sense of self-blaming or into a sense of bereavement, if you want to. Overall, that's the description of a sense of bereavement. And if we want to find a way out, it's no good trying to find it in material life. Let's give you the example of the COVID. I'm not sure if the answer to COVID is a vaccination. I'm not saying it is a bad thing to vaccinate. I think everyone should be vaccinated if they feel that's what they require. And so leaders, faith leaders throughout the world should have photographs of themselves, like the Dalai Lama recently, with the taking on the vaccination. But what I'm saying is this, that if you look for answers to temporary problems in temporary solutions, you will not be going deep enough. The great example of this is a simple question. Suppose you put them at one end, they will resist each other. If you turn one round, they will attract each other. Now you're going to ask why. This question was asked to the great scientist when he was alive, Richard Feynman, and he found it very difficult to answer. Not because he was inept, he was a man of great knowledge and understanding of science. But he said, you asked me a pretty impossible question. You see, because if you ask why and your understanding is limited, then you can answer and leave it. But if that doesn't satisfy you, then you have to go on a deeper inquiry. Let's take, for example, suppose saying your husband or your wife goes to hospital because they slipped. Then you ask why? Why did this happen? Because they were on the icy road and they slipped. Somebody visiting from Mars, they might find somebody on Mars and they bring them here, will not know anything about this. They won't know what slipping means. They don't want to know what hospital is. But it took them in an ambulance. They don't know what ambulance means. And they don't know why somebody might slip. All of these will be foreign terms. So the context will not satisfy any answer to the question, why? Why did this happen? Now we can say, of course, ice is slippery. And then you can ask a number of different whys, Why did the hip, why was the hip damaged? Why not anything else? So each why can be answered with a suitable reply. But as you now go into deeper territory, it becomes much more interesting. Why is ice slippery? We know that water has the capacity to expand and contract. And in this characteristic that water has, not many other things have it, then the surface then becomes hard. And when the surface becomes hard, when you put your foot on it, a temporary warmth takes place and a minute level of water is there. A little bit of warming takes place and that becomes extremely slippery. But if that answer satisfies you, then you haven't gone deep enough. Why should the molecules behave like that? Why should there be atomic structures like that? Why should there be electrons that behave like that? So with each answer, you go deeper and deeper and deeper, and it becomes more and more interesting. Now, if you pursue that, and still using the example of these botanists counting leaves, you can count the leaves, but did you inquire why the leaves are like that? And that's on the one side. And you see, there's nothing to stop you from eating the mangoes and still engaging in your inquiry. But at some point, the inquiry will stop and you have to accept whatever is there. And instead of asking why, you have to ask, why not? What next? Put something else in. Knowing that this perceived arrow of time is there, and you only have certain limited available opportunities. No matter how much you think it's okay, and with a sauntering approach, you say, next life we can do it, next life we can do it. There's certain benefit in saying that, but there's a certain malaise in that. There's a certain lack of urgency in it. And the urgency, the sense of urgency has to be there. Now it happens by itself because life has a way of telling you, and it does it in the most painful way. When we catch a bitter fruit, it alarms us to some higher possibilities. The Mundaka Upanishad will tell us of these two birds on the tree. I've covered that previously. Tasting the bitter and sweet fruits of life, the lower bird on the lower branches of the tree. And our greatest lessons will happen when we taste something which is painful and bitter. But why? What is it produced by? Is life against us? No. It is produced by our own thinking. So when you ask the Sankhya philosophers, why did God make such a foolish world where we suffer? His reply can legitimately be, don't ask me that question. I don't believe in a God like that. We don't have any God like this. Then how do you explain all these difficulties? Wrong thinking. You adjust your thinking second by second, put something new and useful in it, and your whole reality will change. An investment in the future. But what about the pain now? Can't avoid it. So the whole of the principle of karma is illustrated by an archer with a quiver full of arrows, shooting the arrows at a target. So this has been an explanation of the different types and consequences of actions. I mentioned it briefly yesterday and in a talk on Wednesday. What we call sanchita karma, it means that these are an accumulation of all your past experiences. And you can see it as an archer that has so many arrows accumulated in the quiver. But the arrow that left your bow, you have no control over. You can't say, please stop the movie and run it backwards. It has to arrive at its destiny. This is what we call prarabdha karma, and we live it out. But the more important thing is this. We have an opportunity to shoot fresh arrows. And the head has the capacity and put it in the right direction toward the center of the target, not haphazardly. That is within our hands. That's within our scope. That becomes the opportunity. And that is equivalent also in some way to the tasting of the mangoes, because in this present moment, it is all blissful. Just think about it. If you want peace of mind, pause for a moment and poise yourself internally, detach yourself from all of this, and instantaneously you'll find peace. Instantaneously you'll find it. How can we realize God? Will we have to go through all these various aspects of time and then eventually life after life after life? No. If all your desires are gone, this instant, you will have realized the highest. If all your yearnings and desires, and the desires are kept in the unconscious cabinet, but they're brought out. But if all of those are gone instantaneously, what we call grace is overvalued by religions. They make a mystery of it. They make a big, big science of it. Not even a science. They hold it in grace. In order to get it, you have to do this, this, and that. Going to church, doing exercises, stand up, sit down, do this, do that, do any kind of ritualistic action. It might be good for your health, but it is absolute physical health, but it's absolutely useless in accessing divine. How can we access this divine grace? Is it through prayer? Is it through japa? Is it through meditation? Is it through doing good works, philanthropic works, selfless works? The reply is none of these. None whatsoever. Then what is the use of doing all that? The most profound beatitude that Christ said was, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." All of these are ways of polishing and purifying. All of these are necessary simply to remove all the obstacles which are there in the psyche. It's another way of saying taking off all your desires. Now, desires are for things objectively, but desires are always egocentrically issued. It's all about me and my and mine. And so the key obstacle really is that. Now, devotion, love of God, the typical way, is useful in that way. When we love another, love for ourselves diminishes. But generally, human love is egocentric. It's selfish. I love you if you love me. If you don't love me, I hate you and will plan a plot against you. That's the normal way of doing it. So what do we mean by love, and how can we teach our children to love and be loving, this highest value ever? Once you've tasted the mango, coming back to the illustrative story, you will want more of the mangoes. Once you have tasted the sweetness here that is available now, you will always want it. And what is grace? Grace means an abundant supply. It'll never end. The sweetness will never end. But of course, the story illustrates the knowledge. You can have knowledge of the tree. This is superficial knowledge. What is described in the Mundaka Upanishad as lower knowledge. Two types of knowledge being there. Lower knowledge, this kasmin no bhago vidyate. What is that? Knowing which we can know everything. There's lower knowledge is there, including knowledge of scripture. But what is the higher knowledge? Higher knowledge is the equivalent in the story, eating mangoes. In the mangoes, we know what the fruits of the mango is. We know what the purpose of the mango tree is. So all of that is available to us, and it's available now, presented to us now. It doesn't require much conviction academically to know that this world is not permanent. And yet we take it for that. We take it to be permanent. And in doing that, we have now avoided the real knowledge because we are preoccupied with the details. And when you look at the details, when you look at all the various problems that are issued to us, so-called, you'll see that in hindsight, it amounts to trivial pursuit. There's a game called Trivial Pursuit, isn't it? Trivial Pursuit is a game where cards are presented and questions are asked and points are given if you know the answer, something like a competitive game like that, called Trivial Pursuit. Because if you answer a question and the answer is Abraham Lincoln, of what use is it? And that's why, so it's trivia. Then what are the things which are not trivia? The things of profound importance in this life that we have to attend to. In the Mundaka Upanishad, there's an indication of the transcendent glory of this divine principle, of the mango. The technical term that is familiar to all of us is Purusha. We have to understand what this term means. We have to break it down. Puri means a city. Sete means abiding. Purusha, some entity that abides in a city. Now, abiding means it doesn't go and it doesn't come. It's always there. It's ever available. So what is that which is ever available to us? Only in stillness can we find it. Only when all the frenzy is halted. All the concerns and the adventures of the external life, they all come to a standstill. And then in the quietness, the inner chamber of the mind, we can discover something that is profound. That means that when we enter into the marketplace, as it were, all the hubbub of so-called daily life, we can come to it with a new understanding, a new approach, a different way of thinking. That then becomes a very practical formula to use. With the knowledge of the mangoes, coming back to the example, we can then go and make our report about the tree with this added dimension. We found out that the purpose of all these leaves and cultivation and all the components necessary to make the fruit is to have fruit. And furthermore, no point in having fruit if you don't eat it. If you just let the fruit drop off and it rots in the ground, then what's the purpose of it all? The fruit is there to be picked and eaten. Sometimes it's later. So that's the point. This fruit is there. Now, we use this term phala, fruit, as for effects of actions. So there's another dimension to this story that you can take as well. Whatever thing that you sowed, you will reap. So if you sowed mango seeds and looked after them well and nurtured a young tree until its full maturity, and then in the season, the mangoes came, then you can eat that fruit. So be careful what you sow. So this whole karma yoga is built on one principle, or this whole karma, this idea of karma, cause and effect, is built on only one principle. That is the principle of sowing and reaping. And don't expect somebody else to do the sowing. You yourself have to do it. So it's a very sensible way of looking at it. It's not that it was caused by some external will somewhere. The cause is yours. Now, this means that we avoid this great problem of suffering. And I think I dealt with this last week also, because there was a question last week about suffering. Or it might have been on Wednesday. Sorry, I get groups mixed up a little bit in terms of the cause of suffering. And a question was asked on Wednesday about something called karma for atonement, action for atonement. It's a very foreign idea to the principle of karma, because what it means is that there's an assumption that there should be some guilt. Now, there is merit in being guilty about an action that was foolish. Foolishness are pretty much the same. There's a merit to a certain element of remorse. There's no doubt. But should we linger on it? If I make a mistake or upset somebody, 3 minutes, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. Next, put the phone down. Next, to text. So sorry about that. Next thing, pick up the phone. By the way, I wish to express my regret. You'll be a public nuisance. You'll have lost a friend if you do that. So apologizing once is good enough. And doing it with an atmosphere of faith. That is that God doesn't mind. God doesn't take account of your apologies or your remorse. He doesn't have a position reserved for you in heaven or hell. Nor do you have to book for it either. That's not that kind of entity that we believe in, that is reasonable. That might have been appropriate when you were 4 or 5 years of age. Even then, I doubt it. But at the moment, what we're dealing with is this present moment. The truth that never changes is here. This is called Purusha. And it's an all-pervasive principle. It is self-sufficient, says this Upanishad. It is well-seated. It is well known as moving in the heart. It is the great goal. On it are fixed all these that move. What are all these things that move? Breath, wink, and do not wink. These things that wink and do not wink. Creatures wink and they don't wink. Recently, I saw some computer animated changes to Swami Vivekananda portrait, and there the eyes were made to move, and the mouth was made to move. So all of these things can be done through computer technology. If you look into the night sky, if you look down into the sky, why do I say down? Because you see how egocentric we are, how geocentric we are. Why do we say up in the sky? Why don't we say down in the sky? If you go outside the earth, there's no up, no down. It's only that we position ourselves here and weave everything around it, thinking ourselves very important. Right now, we are dealing with things by remote control on Mars. We can't say the Mars is up or down. We can't say whether Australia is standing on its head or not. See? So when you look into the night sky and you'll see various things winking at you, stars wink and blink, isn't it? A beautiful image. So all of these things that flash. Know this one that comprises the gross and the subtle to be beyond the ordinary knowledge of creatures. The equivalent is the covetable and the highest of all. You see, those in the example who were counting leaves were oblivious to the fact that there were mangoes to taste. It might have been an afterthought. But what is the practicality of dealing with the world with an insufficient formula and simply dealing with the details of life and not going to the very heart where we find this Purusha? So we have to ask, how is it self-effulgent? How is it well-seated? Because it reveals itself, and it reveals itself through various functions, conditioning factors, seeing, hearing, touching, tasting. And ultimately, seeing, hearing, thinking, knowing. It's recognized in the hearts of all beings. And the commentator on this passage, Sri Shankaracharya, says, it is covetable because of its eternality. It is the highest of all high things because of its freedom from all defects. So it is also called immutable, it's also called imperishable, aksharam, imperishable. And that's in contrast to our own experience of waking, dream, and these states that we have dealt with changed imitation. They come and they go, and we can objectively stand there and observe them. So all the time you see me in these question answer sessions, bringing you to these three states of consciousness, the whole world combined into these three states. And when you stand there as a witness, then you are then not only witnessing, but you're also enjoying, because a witness is an enjoyer. If you witness the events of a play, you don't have to worry about whether you remember your lines or whether you entered the stage at the correct time or not, or how the plot is developing. All of these you don't have to worry about. You simply sit there, and because you're witnessing, you're also the enjoyer. So from this position, we always realize that we are shown a strange drama of time and space that also involves causation. And we are also involved in their disappearance. We also witness their disappearance, their appearance and their disappearance. Ordinarily speaking, if we see something appear and disappear, we don't take it seriously. We may not know how an illusionist produces his or her illusion. On a grand scale, you can do it. You see, you can make a big announcement. Tomorrow, the biggest aircraft you've ever seen will be at the airport. And in front of thousands and millions of people, I'll make the whole thing disappear. And they do it. And everybody rubs their eyes and say, oh. But they also know it's, and it may remain a mystery until somebody exposes it. So if you have cameras and so on and so forth there, they're only looking at one dimension head on. And then through mirrors and screens, the thing becomes hidden. It just becomes one with the background. Very simple. When you know how to do it. When you don't know how to do it, it becomes a head-scratching moment. How did this person do it? So these are some comments. The mind is like a unique stage. Actors come along on each stage, with each stage. And when the drama ends and the actors go, the stage also goes, and the viewer knows it. And so hearing and touching and tasting and smelling and planning and revising and acquiring and thanking all take place. But the point is to tune into this truth and to remember continuously to tune into it by all means possible. And in order to do that, you have to be aware of this present moment. And to be aware of this present moment, you have to taste the sweetness of the present moment. That in the example is described as a mango. This life is sweet. Don't allow the mind to be diverted to all the unnecessary, superficial and meaningless trivial details that bring our mood down and put us into severe depression. It's not a question of thinking of things positively. It's a question of tuning into the inherent reality which is there already. And doing that constantly, since it's available constantly. It's never absent. It appears to be absent when our attention is directed elsewhere, pitched elsewhere. But when we bring the attention back, it's present to us. And only by tasting will we understand its sweetness. So there it is. So I think there may be time for one more question or a comment or whatever it is, and then we leave it off for today.
Swamiji, one quick follow-up question. So aren't our actions also guided by the deep-rooted impressions that we have? So all the entrenched habits that we have. So the past actions have created these baggage of impressions within us, and now they are guiding our current actions to some degree at least. Is it not correct?
Well, it's correct if you don't take control. You see, if you allow, I'm controlled by all these books. As a librarian, you pick and choose what books you want and bring them out and present them. So all this accumulation of understanding we have. You come back to the example, we've counted many leaves before. And we know what a tree is, and we're counting them again, and new leaves are coming, and we're counting those as well. And the more you do it, the more estranged you are of the real essence of what is a mango tree, that is the fruit itself. So the point is, we can't resign authority. We can't abdicate and say, it's all these past actions. That'll be like projecting blame on some other entity, and blame is a part of the overall grief process, which doesn't help. Supposing in a relationship, somebody leaves you and you say it's their fault. But then you ask a friend, whose fault do you think it was? He may say 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. You forgot about your side of it. So, you cannot project. In psychology, we call it projecting. You cannot project and blame some other entity, nor is it worthwhile examining where do all these impressions come from. That would be like counting leaves, missing the present opportunity to actually taste what is here. God is here, God is now, God is love. Taste it. Taste it every second. Every available second is available for it. Do it now. Don't make a delaying tactic by reviewing what happened in the past. And don't frustrate yourself by concerning yourself what will happen in the future. Either one will stop you tasting the sweetness of what is here, what is now, in this second, right now, here, now. So your question really is a why question in a sense. A library of books is there. Don't ask where they came from. So create a better one. It's not like the library of Alexandria that was burnt to the ground and all the knowledge was lost there, and you start afresh. So all of this is there, some of it useful, some of it not. And we use as a technique recalling, selecting the best memories. How do we conduct our way of thinking to combat anything that is negative? You bring up all the useful things, all the beautiful things. I saw a picture today in the news of children playing in the rubble of Syria, where things were destroyed. They still found something to play, and you see them laughing because they're too young to know the tragedy of it. They grow up thinking this is their playground. It used to be a building. Somebody told us it was a building, but we find it as rubble, and we have an adventure, and we explore, and we play hide and seek there. So there are always memories that we can bring up of something useful, something good, something that is elevating for us. And we can use that as a platform for meditation also. Bring this up. Everybody of the best holidays they ever had, or the most beautiful sceneries they ever had, mountain sceneries, sea, the place they lived in their childhood, where they ran through fields of grass happily, everything was joyful. We don't have to dig up the old memories which drag us down. That's a difficulty in modern psychology, to bring us back to the old memory, which is not useful for us. Sit on my couch, please, and tell me what a fool you were when you were 3. What the use of that is there? How old are you? Even 60, 70-year-olds lying on the couch with the psychotherapist, tell me about this terrible childhood we had. Oh, my mother was an alcoholic, my father was a drunkard, this and that, the other. They abandoned me, etc., etc. Yes, but what happened with all those seconds that passed? You're playing one record. T for two, two for T, you for me for you. Why don't you play something new? We play the old record time and time again. Put something new in this second. The Lord is holding hands out. Here, my child, take this. It's a gift called a second. It's a blank check. Put something useful in it. And we put in, oh dear, what a pity, what a pity, what a pity. My childhood was like this happened like that. My colleague said this, and my boss said that. And now all of this, my job is in jeopardy, and my finances in ruin, and so on and so forth. These may well be concerns, but they're controlling you. When you change your thinking, the world coordinates as a product of your thought and creates new scenes, opportunities, and people coming in to your environment, to your field. Make a better life for yourself. Change your thinking.